Awesome. All right. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. I just now remembered how to unmute my microphone. So that's how my Saturday's going. Uh, welcome. Welcome to episode 2 of Some Random. I am your host, SrirachaFlash. With me today is the wonderful Eli. Eli also goes by @BODIEDnovel on Twitter. Oh, everyone. Hey, how are you? So Eli, tell me about yourself. How's it going? How are you?
I'm mostly okay. I'm getting old, so I have a bad ankle now, so my ankle's been acting up, and because my ankle's been acting up, my knee on the same leg has been acting up because it turns out that you can't just get injured once. You have to get injured 100,000 times all on the same side of your body. But other than that, I'm doing great. I am from Pittsburgh, PA, same as our good friend Super Joe Monday. Born and raised here. I actually went to college at UMass Amherst because my parents are fucking weird, and they told me that if I wanted their help paying for college, that I had to leave. So that's what I did.
So I got the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah. But I came back here. I like it here, even though our FGC is sort of small and like inconvenient. So this is not about me. But while I'm talking about Pittsburgh stuff, Pittsburgh sort of famously has the Three Rivers, right? Our football and baseball stadium used to be called Three Rivers Stadium.
Absolutely.
So we have bridges everywhere, and the bridges are horrendous, like for traffic or just in terms of maintenance. They're in pretty bad shape, like all the time. On top of that, we have a lot of hills in Pittsburgh, so there are a lot of tunnels. So like there's this joke in Pittsburgh that like if you want to go somewhere that involves either a tunnel or a bridge, that like you can't get there. It's not going to happen. You can't get there from here. And I think our like primary FGC local is like across both a bridge and a tunnel for me. So I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to do that. Anyway, so from Pittsburgh, I have my degree that I got was in mathematics and philosophy. I'm using personally as a human being, I'm using the philosophy a lot more these days than the mathematics. I work in software, which is incredibly boring. And I wrote this novel about the FGC, so that's yours truly.
That's awesome. That's a wonderful introduction to Eli the Man. But now that we know Eli the Man, I have to know. So I've seen scarce details about the Bodied novel.
Yeah.
But I have to know more about. Okay, so you've been writing this book for how long now?
So I think I started it. I could actually probably pull it up in Google Docs because they version everything, so I could probably tell you the exact day when I started writing it, but it's probably been about 4 years, which is a really fucking long time to be working on a single project. I've been a writer for a long time. When I was a kid, in elementary school, I turned in this one paper, and my teacher called my parents in to be like, which one of you helped your kid write this paper, because he didn't write it on his own, only I did.
That's like the highest praise.
Right? Yeah, so that was pretty good. And then I also, in our school had a 5th grade play that we did, and it was always like some like goofy riff on like Shakespeare or some other like Homer or something like that. And then one year I like helped to write one of the acts for that, so that was pretty cool. So I've always been a writer. But I never felt for a long time like I had anything particularly important to say in terms of writing fiction. Like politics is obviously very important. I find, like I said, I'm a philosopher, so I have opinions about everything. But in my opinion, like I'm not one of those people who will just go pick up a Dan Brown book and be like, here's a fun story about like bullshit happening. Like if I want to write fiction, I feel like I want to have something important to say.
Right.
And that's where the fighting game community came in. I feel like the fighting game community to me is super fascinating in a lot of different ways. I think that it's it makes people think and behave and relate to each other in ways that you don't see, I don't think, anywhere else in the world.
No, I think the FGC is very unique for that. I think the camaraderie and the stories that come out of the FGC are definitely one of a kind.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, so Google Docs is finally open. So the first saved version of the book that I have is from March 5th, 2013. So apparently it took me 5 years to write it. I finished it. I finished like the real first draft of it over the winter, and I've been sort of editing it ever since. I'm not gonna say that the book is like finished until it goes to a printing press somewhere. But yeah, that's the current status of the book.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
No, sorry, you can go ahead.
Oh, sure. So yeah. Um, and then what the book is about is it's a coming of age story for a woman who's in her early 20s in a fictionalized version of the New York City fighting game scene. So like a fictionalized version of Next Level, basically, in 2011, because 2011 was roughly the time when I started getting like not getting into fighting games, but getting into the community specifically. And also, I think that I did a lot of historical research for this book because I wanted to say something about the concept of history with it. And it turns out that the way that like the character's age worked out, 2011 just so happened to be a very convenient year for all the stuff that I wanted to say. So like, for example, Street Fighter 2 came out in like 91, I want to say.
Yes, because Final Fight was 89. So yeah, I think Street Fighter 2 was 91.
Yeah, 91. Yep. Which again is like very nice. Like if you want to write a story about someone who's about 20 years old, you might as well pick a date that's about 20 years from the time when Street Fighter 2 was released, because that was really like the ground zero, right, of fighting game stuff.
Right.
So yeah, so that's pretty much what the novel's about. And I would be more than happy to go into detail about any part of it, because like I said, this has been the last like 5.5 years of my life. So
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, okay, so here's my plan. I want to know more about the book. I want to hit more of it as we go through this. Yeah. Okay, but before we dive into the book, I have to know, what is your history with the FGC? So you said you joined the community around, what, 2011, 2012?
Thereabouts, yeah. So it's a little weird to say that I joined the community. All right. So you have a philosopher on your show, so I'm going to warn you that all of my answers are going to be like this. So get ready to fucking buckle your seatbelt.
That's perfectly fine. That's why I wanted to have you on. Like I said, I've always found you an interesting guy. So you were one of the first guests that I was like, I need BODIEDnovel to promote the book and fucking talk.
Yeah. So it's a little weird to me to be like, yeah, you joined a community these days, because it's not like it's an Amish community where like you can sort of demarcate the boundaries of it geographically, right? And like, not even just geographically, but in terms of the way that people dress and talk and the way that they interact with each other. Like, there's a very clear whether you're in or out of an Amish community. But in almost every other community that exists these days, it's sort of nebulous, like whether you're in it, how far you're in it, whatever. So 2011 was when I started getting into like watching tournament replays, hanging out in stream chat. I started like recognizing people. Like I started recognizing Spooky and Yipes and Chris Hu and Aquasilk, and eventually that turned into recognizing guys from the West Coast like Ultra David and James Chen, aka Jay Chensor, who never gets to use that name, and like Alex Myers and Velociraptor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was, and then from there it sort of grew into like, oh my gosh, there's this like international tournament scene that's happening, and like there are underdogs in multiple games that I can be interested in, and new games are coming out all the time, and there's patches and DLC characters and this, that, and the other thing, and like now here we are. But my like original relationship with fighting games sort of was a function of the fact that my parents didn't let me have a system when I was growing up. So my parents had a lot of very specific like hardline ideas about how to raise kids. So like I didn't get any toy guns. I was not allowed to watch Power Rangers not necessarily because it was too violent specifically, because my dad thought that the cuts happened too quickly and that I would develop some sort of attention deficit disorder from watching a show where the cuts were like too rapid.
Excuse me?
Yeah, which is like, okay. So like I said, very specific ideas about how to raise kids. So they didn't let either me or my younger sister have a video game system when we were growing up. The video games that I had were like, oh fuck, I had a tab with this open and then I closed it because I'm a moron. But it's called electronic baseball. It was made by a company called Tiger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh,
Yeah.
you are sparking some memories. Holy shit.
Yeah. So I don't know, for people who don't know, it was basically like it was like playing a video game on an old digital watch. Where
Yeah.
like
And then
yeah,
they had like the bigger Tiger Electronics that were like an Etch a Sketch. Like,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I remember
Yeah.
all about Tiger Electronics.
Yep.
Man, I used to have this
So
racing
yeah,
game
go.
that was like
Huh?
essentially just a backlit racing game where you move the
Yeah,
car
yeah.
back and forth, but nothing
Hmm.
ever really happened except for like the screen scrolled. And
Yes.
I like
Yeah.
that was like the pinnacle of video game entertainment when I didn't have a system on.
Yeah. Right. It was like the video game equivalent of back in the day in Hollywood when they couldn't actually be on set somewhere, so they like set up a
Like the rolling
like a painted
background.
canvas. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
Oh man, yeah, wow. Damn, Tiger
Yeah.
Electronics. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
shit.
I fucking hated that game. Because, partially because I
And
think I
I
knew
fucking
that it was
hated
like
baseball.
yeah. Partially because I think I knew that it was like so much below the level of what other people had that I was like, this is just a pale imitation of what a video game is.
Right.
And then also partially just because it was incredibly fucking hard. So anyway, so what that meant, the fact that I didn't have a system and I was stuck with this off-brand knockoff of what a video game was supposed to be, meant that every time that I was around real video games, I had to get as much as I could before the source dried up and I had to leave. So like whenever we went to Toys R Us, I found what I wanted as quickly as possible so that I could go to the video game aisle and play Sonic.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like I didn't have like when was the next time I was going to see a Sega Genesis? I had no idea, so I had to get as far as I could in Sonic the Hedgehog the first time that I saw it.
Oh man.
And then whenever we went to any place that had like a cabinet, like a pizza place or like a mini golf place or like movie theaters, right, had video game machines back in the day, whatever. Again, it was like I have to do as much of this as I possibly can. And then, so that was one factor. And the other factor is that for whatever reason, I'm not the sort of person who gets really interested in sort of mechanical puzzles. So like science class, slightly boring to me.
Okay.
I understand that science is extremely cool, and I'm very glad that we have people who think that science is extremely cool. My sister has a PhD in chemical engineering, and like more power to her. But for me, like I always wanted to be more of a creative, like humanities type of person, and so like Pac-Man is very robotic, right? Or Space Invaders is very robotic. You don't really have. There's like, it's hard to develop a style of playing those games. It's hard to express yourself playing those games. But if you play a competitive game, like a fighting game, all of a sudden you have all these options open up to you about like, all right, here's how I'm going to relate to things. Here's how I'm going to express myself. Here's how like my feelings are going to come into play. So I think between like needing to play as much as possible every time I was in front of a game and needing a game that allowed me to be creative and to have some form of expression, I think it was just sort of natural that I fell into fighting games.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I mean, that's a really good story. Holy shit. Wow. Yeah, you know, it's funny that, like, you say, like, getting into fighting games and stuff like that is really, like, allows you to express your artistic creativity as a person and removes you from those rote actions of, like you said, Space Invaders or Centipede, where it's kind of you follow a mathematics sequence, essentially. One that you can't see, but eventually you learn the patterns and it becomes a sequence.
Yep.
And you're just kind of going through the motions. But everyone's first combo was jump roundhouse into sweep in Street Fighter 2.
Yep.
All of our creativity went out the window as soon as we learned we could cancel that shit.
Yeah, you think you're the first one to discover it when you do it. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, exactly. No one knows this.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, so now we know Eli the man. We know BODIEDnovel. We know what got you into fighting games. But what was the where did you start? Like when you were first able, like when your parents were like, loosen the reins back, you can own a video game, what was the first one that you sprung for?
My parents never did that.
They never. Oh my god. Oh.
No, not even. So this is how bad it was. For one of my birthday parties in high school, I rented an N64 from Blockbuster.
Oh
because,
my god.
so that I could play Smash Brothers at my house, because that was the only way it was gonna fucking happen.
Oh wow.
So yeah. The first one that I really got into seriously. So I was always a big Marvel Comics fan. You've seen me tweet about like the MCU all the time.
Yep,
I'm
absolutely.
a big Marvel fanboy. So obviously I was really into Children of the Atom. I was into Marvel superheroes. I think around the time probably when X-Men vs. Street Fighter came out was the time that I finally got like old enough mentally to understand what the fuck I was doing. So that by the time, like around the time when MVC2 came out, I was like, okay, here's a game that like I want to play this game and beat people at this game. So that was probably the one that I got like actually serious about. And I played Street Fighter 2, I'd played Third Strike, I'd played like the original Soul Calibur. My friend and I played Soul Calibur one time in a movie theater, and we thought that I think Rock was in that game. Was the guy's
Rock before Astaroth.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And we thought that he was a secret character because we picked him, and all of a sudden we were like unbeatable. And we were like, we must have unlocked a secret character because that's how old we were at the time. So like, if that's the kind of thing that you think, you're obviously not ready to really play fighting games. So yeah, I would say MVC2 was the first one, and like my friends and I in high school would go to the Pitt Student Union after high school got let out. We would go to an arcade downtown, the name of which I don't remember, and we would go to, it was called Tilt in the Monroeville Mall, and we would just like play MVC2 all day, and it was great.
Oh damn, man, I wish I had those kind of stories like going to the arcades and shit like that, but I really don't. But that's, I mean, wow, I can't believe like it was that later in life when you were finally like, fuck, I want some video games.
Yeah.
Oh man. Awesome. Wow. Okay. Well, shit. Oh, whoops. Hold on. Might have just made a boo-boo. Okay, never mind. We're all good.
Okay.
I thought I stopped the recording. Okay. All right. So you've been in the community for 8 years now?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Okay. You've been in the community for 8 years now. Have you been a competitor in those 8 years, or was it just kind of like hanging out, going to locals, chilling with everybody?
Yeah, pretty much just hanging out. I have a pretty distinct sense of my own limitations, and like I would much rather be a super good writer than a super good fighting game player. And like, so again, you and I have tweeted back and forth about basketball, right? Like I've played basketball for years and years and years, and there was never a point at which I was like, I'm gonna fucking make it to the NBA. Like I am not delusional. I'm very happy to go to my local park and play a pickup game with whoever shows up. And like, if I lose because I haven't been practicing or because I'm not in shape, like I had fun. That's cool. For me, it's the same thing with fighting games. Where like, if just so long as I get to play and I don't like, forget which button does what, then I'm happy.
Right. You temper your own expectations.
Yeah. And be able to enjoy like people's camaraderie with you, be able to enjoy like other people's. This is a big thing for me, is being able to enjoy and like empathize with and sort of like vibe with someone else's emotional energy. So if you're someone who's really excited about being competitive, I get really excited for you, and that for me is like easily satisfying enough.
Yeah, it's that group high that you get, the contact high from other people in the crowd. Like, yeah, no, I know that feeling, because like I've been watching, like at Michigan Masters last year, I was watching the MVCI top 8. And I could give two fucks about who was in the MVCI top 8, like, at all. But the crowd was so good that I just, like, you feed off of it. And all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, like, I can't believe, like, he's going to clutch it out with Black Panther right now. Like, this is incredible. So, yeah, no.
I wish that the one thing that I wish that FGC broadcasts would bring back from the way that FGC broadcasts used to be is I wish we had a little more crowd noise. Because back in the day, and I'm sure that you probably know this, back in the day before like people had like fancy headsets and stuff and had like a commentator booth that was like off to the side away from the crowd or whatever, people were in the crowd commentating, and their mics were not like directional enough to screen out the crowd noise.
You were smack dab in the middle of the crowd.
Yeah, and it was so fucking hype to hear that crowd reaction to anything, to just like any little thing that happened. And like, if there was one thing that I could tweak about the way that we do fighting game stuff now, I would love to have a little bit more crowd noise.
Yeah, I think that's what I really liked about CEO this year. CEO or like big events that have the broadcast group like broadcast to the arena or like to the event space, and you can hear the echo in the background, and you can hear the crowd behind them, and like because they're coming through the microphone. Oh man, when Dual Kevin won his match in top 8, I swear to God, I almost had tears in my eyes because the crowd was so good, and it was such a great moment, and like he came back down from 2-0.
Yeah,
it was like that. Like I have goosebumps on my arms talking about it right now. Like that was a fucking incredible moment, and like only heightened by the hype of the crowd that like came through, because like you know that they had hosted the wrestling match there the night before, so like the acoustics were fantastic for it. But yeah, the crowd noise that comes through on an FGC broadcast is like nothing else, you know, because absolutely. Like when it comes through, it's like going to a sporting event live. Like you can always like hear a good crowd on TV for like football or something like that. Like if you watch the NFL and you hear like Lambeau Field like get loud, or you hear Arrowhead Stadium get loud, you're like, man, that's crazy. But when you go to like Michigan State and you hear their crowd like erupt, and you just like you feel undefeatable. And the same thing with the FGC. Like when an FGC crowd gets rowdy and it's coming through the microphones and everyone is hype as shit, man, that is a feeling that is unmatched just by anything else. It is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's because the FGC is so grassroots that we're all like, you know, that could be us, or like that's our boy. Like you have a special connection with just about like it's the entire FGC is 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like, like anybody that's up on the stage is someone that you know, someone that's trained with them. You've gone to a local with them. You've played online with them. You've like any one of these things, and like we all have these connections for better or for worse. And man, when it becomes electric, it is. You wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Okay. Wow, man. Yeah. Sorry. I went off on a tangent there. I just get so excited for good crowds and good events. So have there been any events that you've been to, like a Combo Breaker or like NLBC, anything like that you're like, man, I really just need, or like, okay, if not, what's one that you want to go to? Like, what's the destination point for Eli to make a travel to?
Yeah, so the one tournament that I think that I've ever entered, I'm pretty sure it's the only one, was there's a fucking pinball and retro gaming convention that happens in Pittsburgh called Replay FX. Apparently Pittsburgh is like big for pinball. I didn't know this.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely it is. I watched a pinball documentary like a year ago and I learned all about this. So
okay. All right.
God, what's it called? Like Flipper or something like that? It was a decent documentary, but I learned a lot. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, they have this thing every year. My friend and I went to it because my friend Ryan is also a big gamer. He was my one friend who had a system. He had a Genesis, so he was like, you know, whenever we had a sleepover, it had better fucking be at Ryan's house when I was a kid. But anyway, so he and I went to that for a few years just to play like weird old arcade games and weird pinball games, and like they just so happened to randomly have a Street Fighter V bracket when we were there one year, and I was like, fuck it, why not, I'll sign up. So that was, I think, the one event that I actually competed in and like attended was Replay FX, which incidentally I was like, I thought about that in preparation for this video, and I was like, I wonder if I could go again this year and if they have any other games. So I looked them up, and they have a Smash Ultimate tournament, and I was like, I could do better in Smash Ultimate than I did in Street Fighter, because at the time I had not played Street Fighter in probably 10 years. And like I didn't know them. I mean, I knew somewhat the mechanics of Street Fighter V. Like, unless you play the game, it's a little bit harder to react in real time.
Yeah.
So the way that I lost was I got fucking V-Trigger 1 vacuumed in by a Zangief player, like 3 consecutive rounds. And then as soon as I put the stick down, I was like, Jesus Christ, that happened to me 3 times in a row. How terrible am I? So anyway, so I was looking at the schedule for this year, and I saw Smash Ultimate on there. And I was like, oh, cool, that would be a fun thing to do. And then I looked at the dates, and it's during EVO. And I was like, well, fuck that.
Yeah.
So that's not happening.
What
I don't know
bad
what
timing for an event. Jesus. Well, I mean,
right, like come on.
I'm assuming they're mainly pinball focused with like
Yeah.
fighting games on the side. But hot damn, you guys, get it together. Jesus.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so the events that I would love to go to, I really want to go to, I really want to go to CEO Combo Breaker and Evo, if nothing else, as a artist or a creator, right? Like I would love to, ideally, if my book ever gets published, I would love to bring copies of it the way that Joe does with Geef's Gym, right?
Right.
And like set up a booth and have people come and try to sell them the book at those events. I would also love to go to those events just in general because they look amazing.
Yeah. That's the trifecta of American events, right there.
Yeah.
Like CEO, fantastic. Combo Breaker, incredible. And then Evo is, I mean, it's Evo. If at this point you're into fighting games and you ever heard of Evo before, I have to assume that you just don't care about fighting games at all.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that'd be those are the big ones. I can speak highly for Combo Breaker. I went to my first one this year, and that was amazing. Yeah, by far one of the best events I've ever been to. Evo and CEO I think are on the list for next year.
Nice.
So I'm gonna try to make those. But yeah.
Yeah. You and I have to coordinate because I threatened to play you in basketball one time, and the only way that's ever going to happen is if we're at an event together. So you have to let me know what your schedule is so that I can roll you in basketball sometime.
Listen, no problem. No problem. Listen, Eli. I know you're feeling big and strong right now, but when you see this 240 big body come up on you, oh baby, best believe I'll box you out. Don't you worry about it. Oh my gosh, I wish I had my book with me. I had a basketball question I was gonna bring up on Twitter, and then I was like, oh, I'll just save it for the show, and then I forgot my book. So anyway, god damn it, I don't want to mess up the entire idea. But I believe it was Rick Pitino.
Okay.
And in an interview, he talked about. Have you heard the Hell Press? His Hell Press idea.
No.
Okay, so Rick, I want to say it's Rick Pitino. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it later. Not live because I don't do editing. Y'all can fuck off of that. But I believe it was Rick Pitino, and Rick Pitino's idea of the Hell Press was he wanted, and the end of the first quarter, the end of the second quarter, the beginning of the third quarter, and the beginning of the fourth quarter, he wanted to have 5 guys who extensively played defense, did just about nothing else, but for the last couple minutes of the first 2 quarters and the first couple minutes of the last 2 quarters, he wanted to have them play full court defense just up and down the fucking court. So, like, just 5 dudes who will just smother the other dudes and make them run their asses off. And I want to say he pulled it off in 94 when he was coaching, I think it was. And like I said, I wish I had my book with me because I'm kind of fucking up the whole thing. But it was like one of the most effective defenses that he's ever run, but he couldn't convince players to do it game by game by game, so he never did it again. But I thought that was just the funniest idea for like a basketball team. Like, I just have 5 guys who are hyper athletic and they can't shoot for shit, but I swear to God, they will swarm you guys for 2 minutes.
Yeah, that would be fucking fascinating.
Yeah, the Hell Press, which is just like one of the most fascinating basketball ideas I've ever heard.
Yeah.
My God.
All right. Well, when you find the info for that, I'm interested to hear more about it.
I will definitely, probably after this, I'll just send you pictures of the fucking pages. Okay, so, damn, yeah, all right. So let's circle back to the book for a little bit. So you've done your locals and stuff like that. So like that's the extent of your experience within the FGC going to events. Yeah. Did you find it difficult writing for your character, going to events and experiencing that stuff?
No, not whatsoever. So, in the book, she goes to her local several times, and then she goes to like a regional, what we used to call regionals back in the day, like I guess what we would call like a CPT ranking type event these days. And for me, it wasn't so much about how do I describe this? I tried to work in the actual tournament part of the tournament, sort of like woven in and out of the story, because for me the book was not necessarily about like explaining what a double elimination bracket is, or like, every time you watch a fighting game stream, there's like the introductory, like, okay, here's what safe on block means, here's what like a mix-up is, like the little Capcom fighters tips
the
on the
little
bottom of
blurbs.
the screen kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What I really wanted to do was to try to communicate to readers what the feeling was of those events. And the reason that I wanted to do that was that, first of all, I feel like that makes for a better story, right? Like, again, like I'm not that mechanical guy who's gonna sit down and tell you every single like piece of frame data or whatever that allows you to scientifically understand the way the games are going. I'm a humanities guy, and I want to attach to people's emotions. And the other reason was that I wanted this book to ideally be capable of drawing in new people to the FGC. I didn't want this to just be something that I would go to tournaments and sell, and it would have a bunch of like in jokes, and like all the terminology that we're familiar with would be there, but no one who's outside the FGC would even be able to pick it up and understand it.
Right. They shouldn't need a companion handbook to go with the book.
Right. Yeah, like a fucking Cliff's Notes. Yeah,
exactly. And footnote 3.
yeah. So for me, it was more about trying to understand what it would feel like to be at a tournament, and what it would feel like we were talking about earlier, right? Where you're in the crowd and you can hear the crowd popping off, and you can hear fucking buttons on the arcade stick being pressed, and you can see people's physical reactions to the way that they are playing in the moment that they are doing it. Like that like gestalt experience of being there in person was what I was really trying to communicate. And because I had those experiences in the arcades myself, and also because the locals that were being streamed at the time, like I said, and like you said also, were super grassroots and super like authentic and sort of in there, I felt like I had those experiences anyway. So the describing the locals to me was not that hard. And then because this character had never been to a regional before, had never been outside of her local, the way that I tried to write the regional tournament was sort of as like a celebration of everything that the FGC could be. And so I just really wanted to make that whole scene and that whole like block of text be as like positive and uplifting and as exciting as I could. So, and that to me was, again, like not super duper challenging, because that's a dream that I have. That's like a goal for myself that I want to have. And so that section to me was just like, how do I want to feel when I go to my first major, right? Like if I ever do get off my ass and travel to CEO or Combo Breaker or Evo, how do I want it to feel? And that's what I wrote in that part. So I mean, there's a question about how accurate all that stuff is, because never having been to any of that stuff, I can easily imagine that I got details wrong, or that, especially for like a first time person, you might feel something different than the stuff that I wrote down. But like, in terms of, was it difficult for me to communicate the things that I wanted to communicate? I don't think that it actually was. I think the stuff that was more difficult for me to communicate, and more difficult for me to write about, was conflict. Weirdly, like given that I'm in the FGC, and the FGC is centered on a specific form of conflict, it was hard for me to write conflict between characters. That was the stuff that I really struggled with.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. It's hard to write those ideals when you haven't personally had to deal with them. But I mean, we all know human conflict. Like, it's pretty much that, but like over fucking buttons, right?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Damn. I'm trying to think of how. Hold on, that's just gonna be dead air. So I'm gonna skip past. I'm gonna skip past that for a second, because I'll circle back to it again. Because I wasn't trying to ask like a pressing question, like, you motherfucker, like, you've never done this, like, how dare you? Because like I didn't want it to come across that way. So yeah, but no, I think that's interesting. As someone who's been in the FGC, it's not like you have an outsider's perspective and you're writing like unintelligible shit about locals, and you're just like, you like haven't gone to. So I think it's interesting. I think it's a good way to put it. Where like, I hope you don't find this offensive. But like someone that's on the fringe of the FGC, like in and out of it, like you're like, I know what this is, and like I have a good idea for a book, and to be honest with you, I'll probably be the fucking first person that buys it if you ever get the damn thing published. So no, I'm looking forward to it, man. That sounds incredible. Well, all right. So let's get away from the book again. We're just gonna keep doing this. We're gonna fly back and forth. And while I'm here, I just want everyone in the chat, if you're around, if you feel like asking Eli any questions about himself or the book, please throw them up in chat. Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to ask, you're more than welcome to. We'll get to them. If you have anything you want to say about the interview as we're going on, please do that as well. This won't come across on the audio-only version of the podcast, but that's okay, because they can tune in to me here and they can see the fucking chat live. But if you guys have any questions, I'll read your name, I'll read your question out loud so it'll come across and everyone knows who's asking the question. But don't feel strange to like interact and talk with us as we're doing this. We're both in the chat. We'll see your questions. We'll go through them. So please feel free to ask anything that you want as we go along. We'll try to get to viewer questions along the way. Any ones that we don't get to, we'll get to at the end of the show before I send Eli back off to Massachusetts. Is that correct, Massachusetts? UMass? Around that area?
Pittsburgh.
You're back in Pittsburgh now. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it. No problem. Okay. So back to the boring ass questions, but these are important questions for me, because as I said before, I always feel like the way to get to know somebody is through their heart, and the quickest way to their heart is through the stomach. So Eli, what's the food for Eli? What is the number one food for Eli? Like, what does Eli get down on?
So if you want to be an instant friend of mine, take me out to get some like Americanized Mexican food.
All right, so Taco Bell. Like, you can just say Taco Bell, that's fine.
No, so it's a step above Taco Bell. So there's like Taco Bell. I said food, not Taco Bell.
Hey.
If I wanted to eat sawdust, I could do that very easily. No, but like I don't have another. Like, I don't know if there's a national chain that does like the type of food that I'm talking about. Like, there's a place in Pittsburgh that's a chain called Emiliano's. I don't know how how widespread they are, but anyway.
Emiliano's.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's just like, that's what it sounds like. That's what sort of Americanized Mexican food sounds like. It's just like a vaguely Hispanic guy's name, and you're like, okay, well, I guess that's Mexican food then.
Yeah, listen, as a Hispanic person, totally get it. Don't you worry. I've seen my fair number.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that I'm like, I just love, like, it's got like the off-brand cotija cheese where it's like nice and creamy. It's meat and bread, and like if there are vegetables, there's like 3 peas that are like hidden in the rice, and that's like very comforting to me. I don't know why, but yeah, that's. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and answer your next question, because we shared the questions beforehand.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a least favorite food. I used to be an extremely picky eater. When I was growing up, like, I didn't eat vegetables, I didn't eat fruits. I still don't really eat. Just like, if you give me an apple, I'll be like, no thanks. So like when I was growing up, I was a very picky eater, and then I started watching the Food Network. So fucking kudos to the Food Network, because they did their job. I started watching like Iron Chef and Chopped and shit, and I will eat just about anything now. Like I said,
I saw them make blood pudding. Hell yeah, Chopped got me.
Yeah, like honestly, whatever. So long as I know that like other people have eaten it and not died, I'll probably be fine. At least giving it a try.
It's funny that you say that last part there. Like, as long as someone else has eaten it and not died, like, it's fine. Because that is exactly my feelings for so many fucking things. Someone else has done it and they didn't fucking die, so I guess, let's do it. That's how, when I was a kid, I convinced myself to get on roller coasters. Because I was like, I asked my mom, has anyone ever died riding this roller coaster? And she goes, not that I know of, which she didn't fucking know. And I was like, well, if no one else has died, I can get on this roller coaster. And I just fucking got on. And ever since then, I'm like, yeah, roller coasters. And all it took was knowing that maybe someone didn't die 20 years ago.
Yeah. So you would really, it's a good thing that you did not grow up in Pittsburgh. There is, I don't know if people have heard about this. There's an amusement park near here called Kennywood, and Kennywood allegedly has like roller coasters that are very popular among roller coaster enthusiasts. So, I mean, whatever. So if you're not one, you might not have heard of it. But
No.
there's this one in particular that's called the Racer. And the gimmick with the Racer is that it's a very convoluted like figure eight track. And there are two cars, one on each track, and they quote unquote race. And so you're on one car and your buddy's on the other car, and you're like, I'm going to come in first. Fuck you, whatever.
Right.
And then because the track is a figure eight, you've like switched sides by the time that the track ends. But anyway, they have this sign on, I think, the first hill of the Racer, which is, it says in big ass capital letters, something like, "Don't stand up." And on either side of the words is a fucking skull and crossbones, because someone stood up on the Racer, decades ago and like died. So if you had grown up in Pittsburgh, you would not enjoy roller coasters to this day, apparently.
Oh man, well we have Michigan's Adventures, which is down in Muskegon. And I mean, I don't know, they don't have any skull and crossbones warning signs, but they're good. Really quick, Cross Moon in chat says that he went on a roller coaster one time and came off crying. Cross Moon, I'm really sorry, man, but roller coasters are just excellent. I love them so much. Yeah. There was at Cedar Point in Ohio, I want to say 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I have no concept of time, so like it could have been any amount of time ago. But someone got beheaded on a roller coaster.
Holy shit!
Yeah. He lost his wallet or his phone in the enclosed area while he was on the roller coaster. So the next time it was going around, he hopped into the enclosure. And the Mantis roller coaster is not one that's like on a track. I mean, it is, but it's not. You're not seated. You're hanging. You're suspended.
Yeah.
So he climbed into this area, and it was like, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night, and someone, like, the roller coaster hit him with someone's foot, and someone decapitated him with their foot.
Jesus Christ.
And I was just like I heard that story, and I was just like, oh. I didn't feel bad for the guy because he's a goddamn idiot that couldn't ask somebody, like, hey, like, can someone please get this? I feel bad for the person whose foot
seriously,
killed a man.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't imagine for the rest of your days you're just traumatized. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's brutal. That's some fucking Metalocalypse type shit right there, man. You ever watch that show?
Oh, of course I watch Metalocalypse. Are you kidding me? Newman in the chat, one of my very, very good friends. When we first started hanging out, we would quote tweet Squidbillies and the Aquabilly sandwich. So Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Squidbillies, and then Metalocalypse was on shortly after that. So then it would be like Metalocalypse time, and that would be about the time that he would like throw a couple things from it, or like I would screenshot some shit and send it to him on Twitter. But yeah, Metalocalypse was my shit.
Yeah, it's a good show. The Metalocalypse. All right, real quick before we get I'll say this one thing, and then we can go back to like the real interview. The manager, I forget the guy's name, but like the guy who managed the band.
Yeah.
I feel like that guy must have been the inspiration for Agent Coulson in the Marvel Universe. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I can see that actually quite a bit now that I'm thinking about it. Holy shit. Yeah, wow. I had not made that connection until now. Holy shit.
Right, anyway, so yeah, now we can go back to the...
Oh, no, listen, this is all the real interview. Don't fucking worry. Did you not hear the one with Yango? We fucking went all over the place.
Oh, yeah. That's why I'm trying to keep you in line, man, because I heard the one with Yango.
Yeah, listen, don't try to keep me in line, because I'll realize that you're trying to get me back on track, and I'm going to go, fuck that. All right, so what else do I got? Because I'm like a fucking petulant child, where I'm like, no, I don't want to do this, even though it's my show. That's stupid. All right, but as a storyteller, as an author, I have to know. So you've been around the FGC for close to a decade now. Yeah. Do you have any, like, what's your favorite story that's come out of the FGC? Like, what's one that you're just like, fuck, like, that is the best thing I've ever heard?
So I was thinking about this a lot, actually, when I saw that it was on your list of questions. And I started to feel weird about it, because, like, there are a lot of great moments in the FGC, right? There's one of my favorites ever was Sonic Fox versus Perfect Legend, and I'm not a huge Mortal Kombat guy, but I enjoyed the shit out of that.
The 13-0? How are you going to lose 13-0 in the first 10?
Yep, beautiful. And Spooky like ending the stream and then like unending the stream and being like, no, Carl, don't do it. Like it was perfect.
Oh yeah.
But like to me, that's not like a story. That's a moment, right? And the same thing goes for like Snake Eyes Reverse OCV against NorCal. The same thing goes for Evo Moment 37. The same thing goes for Li Joe in top 8. Like the FGC has produced this huge catalog of really incredible moments. And then like for me, like you said, as a novelist, as a storyteller, I was like, but which of these are stories? And so the one that I eventually low tier God versus Viscant, that guy, Cross Moon in chat.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like again really excellent. Wash the taste of my dick out of your mouth, like incredible.
Yeah.
Like you could have never fucking written like I personally could never have written that in my novel. I'm not creative enough to do that.
Yeah, that is something that like if someone wrote that down, you would go, "That's not a fucking real thing." Like,
yeah, exactly.
Come on, like that doesn't even come close to reality. But that shit was fucking real, and the videos on that, like, I'm so happy that someone took some fucking shaky cam.
Yeah, yeah. So like I could go on about moments in the FGC for days and days and days, but like I don't know what my favorite story is. So like I think there are a lot of good like I'm happy for this person stories. Like I'm very happy for Zero, the Smash player, right? I think that his story is super cool. If you go read up on like how he came up in the world and like where he is now, I think that's super cool. Like Knuckle Dew winning Capcom Cup was obviously super sick. Anytime anybody gets paid, I am super into that. But like the story that I settled on is kind of a deep cut, and I'm curious to know if anybody is going to remember this other than me. But it was actually one of the major inspirations for the novel, and it was the brief like feud between Marn and Flux.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. You're tickling memories from the back of my brain. Holy shit. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so I did a little bit of research for this prior to the interview, just so that I could like know to some minor extent what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So
the sales on the chat knows. Don't worry, we got other people. Like the collective three of us will fucking remember and put all these details together.
So the earliest evidence of this that I found was a tweet from Marn in 2012, December 28th, 2012, in which Marn said, and I quote, "Never mind, start rant. Flux fucking sucks. If any of you think he's better than me, ... you're dumb. I've never seen more trash in my life," end quote. Which, like, you know, that's a pretty standard, like, 2012 era fighting game.
Yeah, that's just kind of like, fuck off. Like, that's that's your standard shit. Yeah.
Right, and that turned into Flux sucks. There was also apparently in 2013 or so. Oh no, sorry, 2013 or 2014. There was like a list of Marvel frauds that he put out. So, you know, Marn had opinions back in the day, and they were both Zero players. And at least my recollection of it, I couldn't find any hard evidence to support this, but my recollection of it was Flux talking trash on some like Big 2 stream back in the day and saying, "Of course I'm going to beat Marn. That guy does so much unsafe shit. He's so unoptimal with the way that he plays." And Marn responding, you know, sometime later and being like, "Yeah, I don't have to be optimal though. I condition people to react a certain way, and I know that because they're going to react a certain way, I can beat them." And for me, as a human being watching that, at the time, I was so convinced that Flux was right. I was 10,000% convinced that like there was a right way to play the game, and the right way to play the game was to be optimal, to do like the safe stuff, to, you know, to have like a system to your approach. And I looked up the results, and I think it was either 10-7 or 10-6 Marn won. And that was sort of the moment for me personally when I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, maybe maybe I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah. And so like a lot of to tie it back to the book, like one of the major metaphors or like themes that I have in the book is that the way that people relate to each other in fighting games is not actually all that different to the way that people relate to each other in general. where like when you and I communicate, like language, English or whatever language you speak, natural human language is not mind reading. It's not a magic tool that we use to like import your brain into my brain or export my brain into your brain. It's just a tool that we use, and it's an imperfect tool. And so when you and I communicate in any way, shape, or form, be it like on the basketball court, right, or in an interview like this, or in a job setting, or whatever, in a fucking stream chat, what we have to do is we have to observe what the other person does, and then on the basis of what that other person does, we have to build in our minds a model of what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what their goals are, what their background is, what their preferences are, like all this stuff, right? And that's how fighting games work, right? You have to be able in a fighting game to analyze your opponent and say, all right, what is this person capable of? Can they anti-air? Can they react to dashes? Can they react to, like, if you throw fireballs, can they react to fireballs? Do they have execution? Do they have, like, are they, you know, if they throw out an uppercut on Wake Up and I block it, are they going to do that again the next time and just prove that they're not going to learn anything? Or are they going to learn something and do something safer next time, right? There's this process, in other words, there's this process of, whether you're in fighting games or not in fighting games, of trying to like be attentive to another person, but at the same time like be true to yourself. And that tension, Cross Moon analyze, you just do it until it works, Kappa.
Yeah. Well, listen, Cross Moon has mash, sweep, and fucking Balrog's target combo all the way to diamond. So he's allowed to say just do it until it works. He's fucking.
So anyway, so like that to me is a large part of what I wanted the book to be about, because when like a coming of age story to me is about how a person learns how to be an adult in the world. And if you're going to learn how to be an adult in the world, you have to learn how to interact like an adult with other human beings. And I thought, like I said, I thought that the activity of fighting games and the community that surrounds fighting games are like a really good and interesting like case in point of that. And so that's what this exhibition between Marn and Flux like sort of that was like the fuse that it lit in my mind, was like, oh shit, I can't just go through life like flowchart Ken, right, or whatever. Right. I can't just like run my set play all the time and expect everything to work out. There is an element of like interpersonality that I have to be attuned to. So that was the reason that I picked that story.
Whoa, sorry to interrupt. I forgot to turn off notifications for my interview show. Sales, thank you for gifting a sub to Cross Moon. I appreciate it. Thank you. Sales has now gifted more subs to me and to other people around my channel, and to other channels, but he's never fucking subscribed himself, and it drives me crazy. This fucking asshole. Thank you, Sales. I appreciate it. And Lemmy too. Thank you. Oh my god. Sales. Again, Sales gifting to other people and not to himself. Now Sales is gifted to Bodied, to Eli. So thank you guys. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Jesus Christ, I have to turn off notifications. This is terrible. Oh my god. Okay. Fuck. Now I got all lost, and Sales is fucking nonsense. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying about the communication thing. Yeah, it's fuck. Sales has thrown me all off. I was so ready for like my next shit, and now I've gone off. God damn it.
Well, I can go back to the RSF podcast questions that Cross Moon asked above, so I can answer those while
all right, so hold on. So we can't do that. We absolutely cannot do that. All right, so here's the thing. Not that I've been like told you cannot do this, but I don't want to step on anyone's toes. In the event that you or anyone else is ever on the RSF Radio podcast, I don't want to ask a question and then, because I listen to that podcast every week, right? And it would be very disingenuous for me to be like, hey, here's this question from this other show that I listen to and I know you listen to. So here it is.
That's legit.
And then, like, if you guys were ever to be on the show, if anyone from this show was ever on that show, I'd hate for you to be like, oh, I've done this before on this fucking show. And then Joe goes, hey, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck, Sriracha?
That's fair.
Yeah, so no, I can't do cross God damn it. Or Sales. Yeah, alright. Sales doesn't listen to RSF radio. So, and I mean, that's fine. So, no, alright. So, here's what I'll do instead. Instead of me being like, so, Eli, what's your favorite normal attack from a fighting game? I will say this. What is your favorite character from any fighting game ever?
Oh, Jesus. Man, I had answers prepared. I don't have fucking answers prepared.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. Look, y'all trying to put me back on track, and I ain't going on track.
Yeah. My favorite character from any fighting game ever. I really loved, I think this was CBS 2, Yuri.
Iori? Yeah.
Yeah. No, not Iori.
Not Iori. Like, oh, Yuri. Y-U-R-I?
Yuri, yeah. She had this move, so I think, if I remember correctly, so it's been a while since I played this game, but that was another one of the ones that I played in the arcade. So she had a little fireball. I think she also had an air fireball, which I love. Who doesn't love an air fireball, right? But she had, like, I think it was a command grab, where she just, like, lifted you up by your shirt collar with one hand, and then just slapped the shit out of you with her other hand, like, a bunch of times, then dropped you on the ground. And I just thought that was so delightful. So I guess that's probably the character. And why specifically CBS 2? I guess because I think that was the game that I played the most. I don't know if I played her in one or if I played one at all. So yeah, it was just a matter of what my arcades had, I think.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Listen, you don't have to answer to Sales, goddammit. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's great. That's actually like a good answer off the top of your head because like normally we get. Hold on, actually, let me do this, and I will view this. Wow. Okay, I was trying to work this in, like as the show was going along. It's like a new thing I wanted to do, like for the live portion, is show a picture of. Oh my God, it's not gonna work now. Fuck. Listen, Sales can't do shit. I know he's a mod, but he can't do shit. Yeah, alright, I messed it up. I was going to show Yori's command grab, but I can't get my browser extension to work properly for it that I had set up specifically for this, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's alright. So yeah, alright. So listen, Yuri is a good answer. Fuck, I wish
thank you.
Now I'm like mad that it's not working. Anyway, whatever. It only works for the video portion of the show, so no one needs to see it anyways.
Yeah.
If Sales ever tries to mute me on my own stream, I'm gonna fucking yeet his ass out of here so fast. Okay, so we've heard more fighting game stuff out of you. Listen, Sales. All right, so since Sales wants to take over from the chat, next Thursday, Sales is gonna be on the show. I have so many fucking. Oh, whoa! Keyboard explosion. I have so many shit questions for Sales. I can't wait. And Sales is not going to get a single fucking good question out of me. It's going to be all nonsense.
Nice. You're going to bring all the Ibuki V-Trigger 2 mix-up questions where it's just like, this is disgusting and I hate this. Get out of here.
Exactly. Like, who's your favorite character from Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that's only has good assists? Like, that's the kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like, what's your favorite assist from Marvel vs. Capcom 2? Like, that's the shit that I'm going to bring, and I'm going to be so happy to see it. Oh, my God. Okay. Why is Bison low tier? Bison has never been low tier. Damn it. Mario Alpha assist. Shit. Alright, he was ready. Okay, so let's go. Alright, back on track for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a storyteller, I have to only assume that you've delved deep into movies.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Alright, so, and I don't want to ask what your favorite movie of all time is. That's horseradish. Everyone always comes up with some shit answer like The Goodfellas or Godfather, and I love those movies. If you ever say Citizen Kane, we can't be friends anymore. I will block you on Twitter. Citizen Kane was an alright movie for the time. That shit sucks. Yeah. I don't want to hear anything about it. But what is the best movie you've seen in the last year? That's the important question for me.
So I actually think probably the best movie that I've seen in the past year was Endgame.
Okay. You know what? I'm not even mad at that.
Yeah. So, but there's it's not just because I'm a huge Marvel fanboy. I actually think that a lot of the Marvel have been doing really good subtle storytelling stuff, or like story crafting might be a better way of saying it. So like for me, Endgame was about like the idea of superheroes and especially male superheroes, and like how we should think about the importance of superheroes. So everyone, I'm assuming in the chat, everyone is familiar with the line from whatever fucking Dark Knight movie it was, where he said, "You either die the hero or you live to see yourself become a villain." Right? Everyone knows that line.
Right.
Yeah. So
I would hope everyone knows that line.
So the interesting thing about that line is that it's not really true. You could retire, right? You could say, I'm too old to be Batman and I'm done now and everyone still likes me, but I can't do this anymore and I'm retiring. And that obviously, there's a reason why Christopher Nolan didn't include that option in his trilogy. And I think that it was correct for him to not include that option in his trilogy. Oh shit, is this the...
Yeah, there it is. Like, it just now popped up. Now I have to get rid of it. God damn it, Yuri. Okay, there we go. Alright, now it's gone. Sorry.
Perfect.
Sorry. Alright.
So... Man, I'm not... No, don't talk to me about Watchmen like that. If we go on Watchmen, we're going to be here for days and days. So anyway,
that's fine.
So there's a reason why Christopher Nolan didn't include retirement as an option in his movies. But if you watch Endgame, the first scene is Hawkeye trying to be retired, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's having the barbecue with his kids and his wife. They're having a good time outside.
Yep, just like being a guy with a family who is like, his identity as a person at that point in the movie is not Hawkeye. It's not tied up with him being a superhero. It's tied up with him being, again, like a human being who has relationships to other human beings. Midway through the movie, Tony, Iron Man, also retired, right, to spend time with his family, with his wife and his daughter. At the end of the movie, right, the movie ends on Cap, on Steve, being retired to spend time with the people that he loves, which is Peggy, right? And to me, and then like the fourth person who sort of fits in with that interpretation is Ant-Man, who, right, like originally Ant-Man was not like a hugely important, hugely powerful superhero. He's just kind of like a guy who happens to have stumbled into this thing. And again, in this movie, his main thing as a human being is like, oh my God, I need to get back to my daughter and her mother so that I can be with my family again. And that's something that you almost never see in superhero movies. That is so rare. And for Marvel to have built that into the movie so many times, and especially in that movie, where you would think that the whole movie would be about Thanos and what an asshole Thanos is, and like we're so happy to be able to beat the shit out of Thanos finally. For them to instead focus so much on these male characters and their like emotional relationships to other people, I thought was super cool.
Well, I mean,
and I'm really happy that they did that, because to me it was this message of like being the hero, being the guy who takes ludicrous risks and goes out and like goes to war all the time. That is not like an ideal state for anybody to be in. The ideal state is you are Clint and you're at a picnic with your family. The ideal state is you're Tony and you live in the woods with your wife and your young daughter. You are what the fuck is Ant-Man's real name? That's terrible. I should have prepared this ahead of time.
Nah, it's all right. Paul Rudd. You're Paul Rudd.
Right.
You're 50 years old.
You get to go back with your daughter or your Cap, and you get to finally, after all these fucking years of being the hero, you finally get to do the thing that you really want to do, and that's really good for you, which is that you get to be with the woman that you love. And I was just so fucking happy to see all of that on a big screen. And like, I understand that almost nobody else would have thought of that interpretation. But like for me personally, I thought it was awesome.
No, I think it's what? What are you talking about, Frost?
Yeah, I have no idea the fuck.
Yeah, I have no idea. The stream is not zoomed in. What are you talking about?
Yeah, looks fine to me, dude.
Yeah, Frost, I think that's just you. The overlay has messed up. Sales or Frost. Yeah, refresh your goddamn screen. Yeah, you're fucking with the show. No, I don't know how many people would interpret that. That being said, that comes across as an accurate idea and I don't want to give like the death of the author interpretation from my end. You know, like this is what it means, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But the idea of finality, the entire movie is centered around that idea of finality. Like this is the end of the line for these characters, or like this is the end of where these characters are, and where those characters are in the movie and where they do finally end up. I feel like it very much tells you this is the end of the road, and this is why this is the end of the road for this character. Even though it doesn't seem like the end of the road, but as the story evolves, you go, oh, that really was the closing arc of their character story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I very much appreciated Endgame for what it was, and I think it did a much better job of telling a story than a lot of the other previous Marvel movies. I've always enjoyed the Marvel movies for the spectacles that they are, with like scenes and bits and pieces that were good, but as far as telling character stories, they've never done it well. And I feel like Endgame was the first time that they went, we can actually tell a story for the most part, or at least develop these characters, and then end a story. It's unfortunate that the characters developed in such a way near the end of the story, but I'm hoping for Phase 4, they do focus more on character development and growth as opposed to telling a story with these characters that are attached to the story itself.
Have you seen Far From Home yet?
I have not seen Far From Home yet.
Okay, well, when you do, let me know what you think of that, because I think they're doing a good job with the characters in that. But
okay, I mean, that's fine. Well, I think Spider-Man was the first one where they started to like actually step in that direction, and I think that's what helped with Endgame. When Spider-Man: Homecoming had come out and it was working towards that. So I'm excited for it. But me and the family really enjoyed Homecoming. So we're looking forward to Far From Home. We just are not able to really go out in the theaters because we have the 3-year-old, and she's not all about sitting still in the movies.
Yeah, understandable, especially for a fucking 3-hour or whatever long movie it was. Oh no, that was Endgame. Sorry, but yeah, like it's still like a longish movie.
Yeah, well, Endgame I had to see twice in the theaters because we have it's me and my wife, and then our oldest daughter who's 16, and then our youngest daughter who is 3. The 3-year-old refuses to sit through a movie for like even at home. So when we go to a movie, I took my oldest daughter to see it on opening night, and then the next week I had to go see it again with my wife. So then we leave the oldest daughter at home to watch the 16-year-old at home to watch the 3-year-old, and then we can go out on date night and also watch the movie. So any movie that's like that like my kids want to see, like my oldest kid wants to see, plus my wife wants to see, I have to do it in 2 parts, or they have to go without me, and then I have to watch it by myself. Like that's the only way we can do the theaters right now.
Yeah, it's that logic puzzle. You ever hear about this logic puzzle where there's like a farmer and a wolf and like some hay or something like that on one side of the river, and you have to get them all to the other side of the river, and only 2 of them can be in the boat at the same time or something like. It's like that.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh,
we were just gifted a wonderful thing by Lemmy. So hold on, I have to throw this up now because this is very important. Lemmy Hawkins, you're a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being. I don't know what I'd do without you. There's Yuri's slap, her command grab slap.
Oh yeah, perfect. I love that shit. That just made me so happy to do that to like anybody at any time.
Look at that. That is beautiful, Lemmy.
Yeah.
You beautiful, beautiful bastard. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh God, that is great. Yeah, my version was not as clean as this. I don't care if it's KOF 13. The command grab remains the same. Yeah. Oh, look, KOF 13 is fantastic. Look at the artwork on this game. Hot damn.
Yeah, beautiful.
So good. So good. Not to say that KOF 14 looked ugly by any means. It definitely looked different. But I appreciate what 14 did. Yeah, thank you, Lemmy. Thank you. All right. Well, so we've gone to one extreme, the best movie you've seen in the last year. What is the worst movie that you've seen? Or, this one I'll expand out. What is the worst movie you've ever seen?
So I think probably, I've seen a lot of bad movies. Because like I mentioned my friend Ryan earlier, he likes to see a movie every week with me, regardless of whether there's anything to see. So we have seen some low quality cinematic art over our years. The one that I managed to escape, thank God, was Suicide Squad, which I heard was just an unending train wreck of horrors. But I like most of the DCEU stuff is real bad. Like Aquaman was comprehensively terrible, I thought. Um, Fucking Batman versus Superman was real bad. The Justice League movie wasn't real good. Even the good old Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, like made me feel real bad about watching it. I was like, no, don't do this to me, sir. Or like have you ever seen the Dungeons and Dragons movie? That was
I managed to escape that one.
yeah.
I did see the Tekken live action movie.
Oh, okay.
I saw the Dragon Ball Evolution live action movie. All terrible. And oh god, there's another one too that I saw.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably the worst movie that I've ever seen. So my friends in high school and I had a really brilliant idea that we were going to do a bad movie day and just like cut up on the movies all the time. Because like we enjoyed watching Mystery Science Theater 3000. We were like, this seems like a fun thing to do. Everyone enjoys a good bad movie. So my friends somehow, I don't fucking know how they did this, because like now that I'm thinking about it, how would you go about doing this practically? Somehow they got a hold of Manos, the Hands of Fate, which if you're Hispanic, you know that just means hands, the hands of fate, which is like moronic. And if you watch the MST3K, like when they're doing Manos, the Hands of Fate, it's very enjoyable because you only get to see 8 to 10 minutes of the original movie. But we actually sat there and watched through the whole thing, and by the end of it, like my brain just wanted to fucking escape from the room. It's a really bad movie. It's not good bad. It's just bad.
To be honest with you, this is the first time I'm hearing of it. I'm looking at some of it now.
Yeah.
I kind of love this poster. I'm not gonna lie. Like if I just saw this poster, I would say this is obviously a great movie. I don't know what you're talking about.
Is it with the dude with the like 2 giant handprints on his like thing that he's wearing?
No, this is like a hand picking up a house.
Oh shit, that does not happen in that movie.
Yeah,
no, what the fuck? What the fuck is that poster? Talk about false fucking advertising. Holy shit.
Yeah, alright. I wish I could get it on screen right now, but of course now is the time that it's not working. Oh, awful. Just awful. But yeah, man, this poster looks so good. Yeah, if I just saw this poster, I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. This is great.
Yep.
Maybe this
is a good poster.
Hold on, let me see if I can share this poster for the people that are watching at home. No, I have not seen this movie. I have not heard of it. Yeah, look at this. That is a good ass poster. Damn.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if my book ever gets published, I want the cover to be at least as good as that.
Yeah.
Because that would make me buy something for sure.
Yeah, that is solid. But I've never heard of this movie, so I have to go find this movie.
Please just do yourself a favor and watch the MST3K, man. If you try to watch, you might not survive. Bad.
I am a fan of Mystery Science Theater, so maybe I will.
Yeah.
Because man, this definitely looks like something. Holy shit! All right. Sales says we have to look up the movie Axum. What is the movie Axum? I'm hoping that it has the apostrophe Axum.
So while you're doing that, just real quick, a story about Manos, the Hands of Fate.
Yes.
I don't know. To this day, I don't know what that movie is about. I assume there's a plot, but I don't know what it is.
I assume there's a plot.
Yeah, that's so. But one of the things the movie does is it like every so often it cuts back to like this couple in their car who are just like making out in their car, and again, like I don't know if those people are supposed to be related to the people in the other like primary part of the story. I don't know if it's just supposed to be like some weird comic relief thing. I cannot mount a rational defense of any part of this movie. But anyway, so they're in this car and they're like passing a flask back and forth between them, right? Just like weird whatever movie stuff. And this cop shows up and like walks over their car and they're like kissing in front of this dude because they don't know that he's there while he's walking over, drinking in front of this dude in their car. And this cop is like, hey, you two, quit that and get out of here. And I'm like, I'm sitting there. This is the only thing that I remember from this god-awful movie. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you're telling me that this fucking police officer is going to show up, watch somebody take like multiple hits out of a flask and be like, you, sir, operate your motor vehicle and drive on out of here. Like, what?
Get out of here, you rascal.
So mad. Yeah.
Holy shit. I mean, I've definitely seen movies like that. Have you ever seen the movie Sleepwalkers?
No.
It's a Stephen King book. I believe it's Sleepwalkers. Maybe Skinwalkers. No, it's Sleepwalkers. Because Skinwalkers.
No, Sleepwalkers. Yeah, I see the.
Yeah, Sleepwalkers is actually a good movie.
Yeah.
It's about this mother and son who are like incestuous cat people. And
what?
Yeah, exactly.
I love how you said it's actually a good movie. It's about this mother and son who are cat people.
Yeah, look, there's no easy way to segue into that shit. Okay, like this mother and son are like incestuous cat people.
Okay.
And it like there's some very uncomfortable scenes. I'm gonna tell you right now. But they're like terrified of cats, like actual human cats, or not human cats, but like feline cats. But they're like these monster people, and the son has like super strength. And the only two things I can remember from that fucking movie is like the awful part where the mom and son are like making out, and cats are in the window staring at them, and they freak out that cats are looking at them. But there's another part where a police officer pulls the son over. And the police officer like goes to give him a ticket or something like that, and the son grabs the police officer's hand and rips the hand off, and blood splatters against the windshield, and the cop starts screaming, and the son just drives off. And I remember, other than like, it's an otherwise fine movie to watch. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's a good quality movie, but like you could watch it in an afternoon and like not feel like you wasted an hour and a half of your time. Like it's a fun watch, but like I wish I could remember more. But that's the one fucking scene when I think about that movie is like the slightly paled out filter of the camera, and just the fucking hand being pulled off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah. I do enjoy Stephen King quite a bit. Sales knows I do enjoy Stephen King. So yeah, I do enjoy some bad movies. But that being said, Stephen King also wrote the short form version of Stand By Me, and I love Stand By Me. So and that's a quality movie. My gosh. Okay, so that's enough. That's enough from me. That's enough nonsense. So one more time, I'm just gonna ask anybody in the chat if they have any questions.
Questions that were not stolen from another.
Yeah, questions that were not stolen from another podcast. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat now. While I ask Eli, aka @BODIEDnovel on Twitter, this question. Eli, what is on your mind right now that you feel like has to get out to the people? Like, what's something that you just feel like you have to vent, or you have to be passionate about, or just something that you have to get off your chest?
I mean, I think we've pretty much covered most of the main stuff. I mean, you follow me on Twitter, so I'm very nervous about the state of United States men's international basketball at the moment. We're going back to the bad old days where it was like fucking Stephon Marbury was the best player on the team that got like bronze or whatever at the FIBA tournament, and that just like so I'm just getting ready to be severely disappointed by that. Let's see what else did I write down. I'm writing my second novel at the moment. It's going way faster, so if I do get published, I will have a second book out within the fucking 6 years that the first one took.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Excuse me. So I'm doing that. Let's see. Getting published is very hard, by the way. If anyone wants to become a writer, I would strongly advise writing, and I would strongly not advise trying to get published, because this shit is a fucking nightmare. Evo obviously is a big thing that's on my mind. I'm as always, I'm super fucking hyped for Evo. I'm very excited to see what all is going to happen. I love the energy of the whole event, so I'm very excited about that. And yeah, like being old and trying to fucking rehab my ankle so that I can walk comfortably again. That's pretty much it.
That rehab thing, like when you opened up with that at the beginning, that shit hit me so hard, because last year I was having like severe headaches and migraines, and I couldn't figure out why. I went to the doctor, and come to find out that my torn rotator cuff and football injuries from 12 years ago have fucked up my shoulders, neck, and everything else to the point where my shoulder muscles tense up and they pull my jaw muscles back, which gives me tension headaches. And I wake up and my knees hurt and my back hurts, And so, like, I know the pain, my dude. And, like, my wife right now is currently dealing with horrible sciatica and bone, distant generation in her spine. So, like, we're both just, like, old and hurting.
Yep.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
my wife had the tension headaches thing, too. And it was the same thing with her. She was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, am I not getting enough sleep? Am I not hydrating properly? Am I, like, is it, like, a caffeine thing? And then, yeah, she went to the doctor, and her doctor was just like, no, your muscles are all fucked up. So, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, that I would not wish it on anyone. It is a fucking awful feeling. Like, I missed work for, like, a week where I was just, like, I would get up and I was like...
Jesus.
It wasn't, like... Oh, I'm kind of uncomfortable. Like, this sucks. It was the lights hurt my eyes. Like, I couldn't focus on anything. I tried playing fighting games and I couldn't, like, move my thumbs to, like, do what my brain wanted to.
Oh, no.
It was a fucking horrendous time. And then come to find out, it's all because fucking torn rotator cuff plus bone shit plus torn muscles plus everything else just fucked myself up. So I had to go to the chiropractor for a while and, like, that kind of helped, but, like, just stretching and massages and shit like that eventually loosened everything up. But eventually I have to get I have a torn rotator cuff from, like, 10 years ago. So eventually I'll get surgery on that thing, but that fucking costs money, so not anytime soon.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think everyone else is good in the chat on questions. So I'll say one more time, follow Eli at BODIEDnovel on Twitter. That's up on the screen right now. Follow me, SrirachaFlash, on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Lowe's.com, XHamster, everything else, SrirachaFlash. That is the sound of my toddler bursting out right now. So this is a good time for me to end. Thank you, Eli, for coming out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I had a great time.
Listen, man, I'm super happy that you came on. This is awesome. Please feel free in the future. Come back on. I would love to just sit and bullshit and talk video games with you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for stopping by, man. Thank you, everyone, that tuned in. I believe at the end of this, we are going to... Let's see if anyone's on that we can go raid and say hi to. And no one. So I don't care. But thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Some Random. I've been SrirachaFlash. This has been Eli at BODIEDnovel on Twitter. And we will see you guys later.
Peace, guys.